Hello guys, welcome back. So in the last video we have seen how to create our very first Hello World program, and now in this video we are going to see what are variables, how to use them, how to initialize them, and how to do certain operations on variables. So without further ado, let's begin. So before starting up, first of all I will delete this process function because we don't want it, and I'll delete the commit itself. And now let me just remove the print statement as well, and let's just type in pass. Okay, or else let's do one thing, just remove everything. And now I'll press Ctrl S, and still it is a valid script because it's just inheriting the node base class, but it is not doing anything as of now. So now in order to create a variable, first thing first, you need to define them. Okay, so how do you define a variable? So we define a variable by typing the keyword var, stands var, we call it var, var, uh, that is the keyword reserved to define a new variable, and then we give the variable name. Okay, so you can give it any name. So for example, let's give it a name called first variable. Okay, and here you can see I have to differentiate two words that are inside the variable. I have given the the first letter as the smaller caps, and the V I have capitalized it just to make it more readable so that anyone can see and look at it as like first variable. Okay, so now this is the valid statement. So basically I have created our very first variable. Okay, so before start going further, let me just describe a little bit what are variables actually. So in your program, whenever you run any program that runs on a computer, sometimes it is required that to store some data inside a container, and sometimes you want to access that data anywhere in the other parts of your program. So for that we use variables. It is very if I say it in a very common language, it is very similar to what we have in our houses. For example, we have some box containers, or some sort of containers we have, and we use it to keep items. For example, if we have a lot of containers in kitchen, so we store our different items in those boxes, and whenever we want them we use them. We basically take out the thing, and when it gets empty we even put the things back inside it. So the similar thing concept you can apply over here, that is the variable. Okay, so now that we have seen how to create a variable, now it's time to actually go ahead and take a look at how to initialize a variable. Now, what is initializing? So initializing is nothing but basically putting a value, or else you can say giving a value to a variable. So there are multiple ways of initializing any variable given. So the first way is to give it a value right at the time of defining. So for example, here in my line number 3, var, where first variable, that is the name of the variable I have given, and if I press enter, you can see there are no errors. So that means it is a valid statement. But as of now, this variable does not contain any value. So like the program doesn't know what is the value that it is going to store. So for example, if I want to store any value, what I can do is I can uh, type in equal to, and I can give it any value. For example, I have given it 10 over here. So now what happens? Sorry. So now what happens is when I will run my program, so let's hit run. So when I run my program, as you can see, there are no errors and no message, because obviously we are not using this variable anywhere. But what is happening in the background is whenever this program is getting executed, the basically Godot is creating a variable for us by this statement, where first variable. So it will create a variable and allocate some memory in the available RAM space, okay, with the name called first variable. And then equal to sign means the compiler will expect some value which will be stored inside this variable. So basically in the very first line it will create a variable, and then it will store a value of 10 inside this variable. Okay, so now this is the one way of initializing a variable. Now there is another way also. Like for example, if I have defined this variable over here, and here I will say first variable equal to 10. Okay, now I'll press Control S, and right away you can see I am getting this error. Okay, so why I'm getting this error is because here the I'm performing an operation over onto my variable, and in this line here I am defining a variable, so it's fine. Okay, but here I am performing an operation on my variable, so Godot doesn't know like when this operation needs to be called, because I'm not using any of the Godot's lifecycle methods. So what are lifecycle methods? Again, we will see in the later videos, but for you, just for a clear understanding, we have to use either process or ready function in order to perform any operation on a variable. So let's just write the function func ready. So this is a reserved function for Godot, and in my last video also I had explained that this function gets called only once whenever your program runs. So now let's say I want to print the value of whatever the value that this variable is storing. So here what I can type in simply the print function which we used in last video. Here if we pass any like any value, I mean in the form of string. So if I press Ctrl S to save my script and I press play, now right away you can see whatever I typed it, so I'm getting that in the output panel. Okay, so let's say I want to get the like print the value, whatever value that is stored inside this variable. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll simply write in first variable, press Ctrl S, and then hit and play. So now right away you can see it is coming as null. So basically what Godot is telling you, giving you a message that this variable is null and this variable is not initialized in any way. So in order to initialize a variable, what we can do is either we can give it a value right over here, which we did earlier. So I'll press Ctrl S, and now I'll press play, and right away you can see 10 value is coming. Okay, there is one more way of doing it, and this is over here. So now if I type in my variable name and let's say I give it a value of 25 and I press play, so now 25 is coming. Now, what will happen if let's say I give it a value of 5 over here, and now I am assigning a value of 25. So what is going to happen? Let's see. So I press play, and now that value 25 is coming. So yes, so what is happening is here basically I'm initializing this variable with the value of 5, but as soon as the ready function gets called, so again I am storing 25 value. So the previous value of 5 is getting overwritten by this value, new value 25, and now I am able to print out this value. All right. So that was the process of creating a variable and initializing it. Now let's go to the operations part. So let's say we have two variables. So I'll define one more variable. Let's say second variable, and let's give it a value of, let's say, 10. Okay, I'll press Ctrl S. Now what I can do over here is I will remove this code from here, and let's say we want to print the sum of both the variables. So what we can do is we can basically type in the first variable plus the second variable and Control S to save the script. And let me replay my game, and right away you can see the value 15 is coming. So it is basically doing the addition of both the variables and just displaying the data. Now let's say we want to create a third variable that will be the sum of these two variables. So we can create a new variable over here, sum of numbers. Let's say I'm just giving some random names. By the way, it is very important for you to have a habit of defining intended use of variable names. So for example, I could have just given it some random names X, Y, Z, something like that. But whenever it is a very good habit to define your variable in the way they are going to be used. Okay, so what that does is in future also, when if even you or someone else looks back at your code, it will be very easy to understand that what is the purpose of that variable. Okay, so here I have created the third variable. Now to if I want to store the value of the addition of these two variables, what I can do over here is I can come over here. I'll just say sum of numbers equal to first variable plus the second variable. Okay, and I can replace this now with the sum of numbers. Okay, so let me just play it again, and here I'm getting the value of 15, so it's working fine. What else also I can do here is right at the time of initialization I can say that first variable plus second variable. Okay, so again this statement is also fine. So I'll delete this and I'll press Ctrl S. So what I have done over here is, here I am defining the third variable sum of numbers, and here I am initializing it a value of first variable plus second variable. So let's hit play and let's see. Yes, so now this is also a valid statement, but I would suggest that you should like avoid this kind of initialization, because sometimes what happens that if any of the variable that you are going to assign it to the third variable is not initialized properly, or if the it is not ready to be any operations performed over it, then in those cases you will face a runtime error. So just to avoid it, just it is very visible to have it inside ready function. So there is one more thing, one more function called underscore init, which runs before ready, and there is a relatable keyboard on ready function, but we will see those things in the next video. In this video we are just going to cover the basics of the operations over any variable. So now that you have seen the value, so let's say that I am playing this, and now I am getting this value 15, but it is not making any sense, because if I just see at the console, I'm not getting anything, any message. So let's say that I want to print a message that okay, the sum of two variables is 15. So for example, like that. So here what I can do is I can just type in like this: the sum of two values is, and then to concatenate the string, like this is one string, and to add the the numbers also in this string, I have to use this plus sign in order to like append two values. And then if I hit play, so right away you can see that I am getting an error called invalid operands, string and int in operator plus. So what is happening? What is really happening over here? Let us see. So basically what is happening is, see, these two variables are a type of integer. They are storing an int data. So any data in the number form we store, this is known as integers. Okay, so this is in a pure number format, 5 6 1 2 whatever, and this here is a string. Okay, so whenever the compiler is doing its operation and I'm using the plus here, so the compiler is basically getting confused that whether I have to add the string to this number, or I have to just print this along with this. So the compiler is getting confused. So in order to fix this issue, what we can do is we can convert this variable data, whatever the data, into a string, and we can say, hey, just convert this data of this variable into a string and append this with this particular statement. So to do that, what we can do is we can have a function called str. So basically str, what it does is it converts any data, any integer data that is given to it, and returns back a string. So we can easily now concatenate two strings in a single line. So I'll refresh, and now you can see that I have successfully got the result in my print statement. So this was it, the basic use cases of the variables. Now in the next video, we are going to see the different data types that we have available for any variable, and how to perform some more complex operations on those variables. So see you in the next video.